everybody. Happy Sunday. It's been a wild week. It's been a wild week. It's been a wild 2 weeks. I've been out of, what do they say, out of pocket, which if you talk to the younger people, they say out of pocket, that means that you're kind of going crazy. But if you talk to people that are older, out of pocket means that you have just marked out some time and you haven't been doing what you normally do. So I went to a conference 2 weeks ago, and this past week, my daughter had paid for us to go to a trip to New York. So she pitched in her own money for me to escort her along New York City. So we did that. And then this Sunday, I almost had to cancel because my mom just entered herself in the hospital this morning. So just FYI, if you guys could keep her in your thoughts and prayers, that would be really great. She broke three ribs, and she wouldn't go to the hospital. She's like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm like, hey, Ma, nobody wants to go to the hospital. Nobody wants to go to the hospital. Like, nobody says, hey, this is a nice Sunday afternoon. It's a great day for a hospital trip. Nobody says that. But this week, we're going to be talking about the real estate commission. It's always one of those things that really gets people fired up, especially real estate agents and the people that have to pay those commissions. And it's been one of those things that have been in the news lately. And we're going to be talking about it. But it's because we have a very special guest and we're going to be interviewing him. He's been a long time listener. Somebody in the chat you guys might recognize by name, but finally you can put a face to that name, which is Clark the Realtor. Come on down.
Hello. How's everything going? How you doing today?
I'm so good to see you. Like, this is the first time I actually seen your face. I mean, other than the little avatar, and we talk on the phone. I'm doing great. How are you doing, my friend, sir?
I'm doing okay. I can't complain. It's a great Sunday down here in Georgia where I'm at, so I can't complain. It's not too hot, not too cold. Just a great autumn time, or fall, as people say. Fall day.
Is it autumn or fall? And everybody in the chat, is it autumn or fall? I don't know. I've always said fall. I know it's odd. I know people say it's autumn, but I think that's like the pumpkin. Those are people that wear the big bloomy hats and say pumpkin spice latte. They'll grab their coffee and be like, look, it's pumpkin spice latte. With their hat, It's time for me to get a scarf. It's sweater weather. Let me grab a little wrap and contemplate the weather,
Exactly. Like
autumn.
Every time of this year, my sister's always like, "Go grab your pea coat. Go grab your pea coat."
Oh, I got a pea coat. I do have pea coat. I love my pea coat. Oh Lord, maybe I'm one of those people. Maybe I'm a pumpkin spice person. So, Clark, you talked to me the other day, and you were talking to me about these lawsuits that are coming up from all sorts of different directions when it comes to commissions. I will gladly admit that I didn't do a lot of research on it, but that's why you're my guest this week. So you can talk to me and tell our audience what's going on with these commissions and how it's going to affect them in future transactions if the lawsuits, pan out. So can you give us a little info, a little FYI on those?
Yes, of course. So I got my little paper here too. So if I look down every now and then, don't mind me. But,
please, don't worry about it. People on podcasts can't even see you, so you can do whatever you want. Just don't run around naked.
Oh no. It's a lot going on, so I want to just have some info down. But if people don't know what's happening currently right now in regards to NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, and also a few plaintiffs, I would say, is a class action lawsuit happening in regards to commission, buyer broker commission. So we have two lawsuits happening: the Cesar and Burnett versus NAR, and then also the Moeller versus NAR. The Moeller one might hit trial in next year of 2024, but right now, currently, the Burnett is actually in trial in Kansas City, Missouri. And so the whole lawsuit is settled around the buyer broker commission. They are saying that when you as a seller or anyone as a seller or myself, when we go to sell our property, we don't want to be the ones to also offer buyer broker commission to the other side. They feel like the commission should only lie with on the seller side as far as with their listing agent, and then the other side should have their own representation that they usually have, but that they should pay that side of the representation. They don't want to pay both sides. So that's
So
kind of like the whole lawsuit.
So yeah, so like what it normally works out like this is like everybody says you want to buy a home, you don't have to worry about it. It won't cost you anything other than your closing costs, but your closing costs don't pay the commission. So whenever you sell a house, you'll see that it will say like 5 or 6% commission or whatever, and that number is actually split in half. So half goes to the buyer side and half goes to the selling agent. So the person that actually listed the house. And these lawsuits are saying that the seller shouldn't have to pay all the money. It did, years ago, it used to be a buyer beware. You know that, right? There
Yep.
was no buyer. There was no buyer side. It used to be like this. And that the sellers didn't pay a commission to a buyer's agent.
Well, I'll tell people too in regards to this. So it's kind of funny with this lawsuit because one, when I read into the both of the documents, it seemed like they were kind of happy with their transactions with the realtors that they utilized, and it
Mhm.
seems like it's almost like after reading it and kind of going through the lawsuit that has been taking place in Missouri currently, it seems like it's more of a refund case. It's not more of a like wanting to change things for the future. It seems like they're just unhappy with them having to pay said fees. And they kind of compared it also to like Australia and all those particular countries where they don't have a they don't utilize the buyer broker side over there. They just have the listing side in which they just get the compensation based off of that side. So
Well, I will say this though, if this ends up happening, let's say they say, okay, sellers are no longer are required to pay the commissions for the buyer's representation. I think it's going to really harm people that are like buying their very first home because
exactly.
like they can't afford on top of the down payment, on top of the mortgage, on top of the closing payments to pay another $10,000 or even more for commissions. Are they going to be able to like, how is this going to work? Will they be able to roll that into their mortgages? I mean, how will that work for them? In a way it already does, because they're financing the house and that's already rolled in there. It's just going to be interesting to see how this happens and how it works out, because I think the biggest detriment is to people that have never bought a house before and to people that have never they just don't know what the experience is, right? They don't know you don't know what you don't know. Um,
Exactly.
if it does come to fruition, us as real estate agents that are on YouTube and on Facebook and all these other places that put out information better start a huge series just to help these people out that are buying a house. Because what happens?
Exactly.
Like the way you fill out a purchase agreement can really mess you up. So what
Hmm.
do? Do you hire an attorney? Like, how is this going to work? I don't know.
Exactly.
What do you think?
And just like you said, in regards to like the practice right now, it helps the first time home buyers. It helps the communities, like communities like myself, African Americans, Hispanics, people that are always kind of, I don't want to say low on a totem pole, but we don't have the same, might not have the same money wise or advantages wise, where we kind of need to, we can't afford to go out and buy a buyer's agent now. Like we already have
So it'd be
the
like almost like predatory practices because they're not doing it that way. You would have to come out of money out of pocket. So it was like suffering, make the poor people even suffer more. Is that what you're
exactly
saying?
exactly. Yep.
Right. Okay, well,
It'll
that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be hard because, like you said, we already have to save up for the down payment, closing costs, and then of course, if people don't know, you also pay for your home inspections. You pay for different things throughout the journey of getting a house, throughout that transaction. So if you turn around, you have to save 3%, and usually it's based off the home purchase price for commission, or 2% or whatever you got. Your realtor might, say how much they're worth as far as when it comes to the transaction, and working with them, then it's like, well, how do I afford to pay that if the house is $400,000 and I have to pay a 2% commission off of the house, or 1% or 3%? So it's going to be hard.
one subscriber said, lawsuits will fail though. Nobody's forced to subscribe to services for a real estate agent. That
Exactly.
makes that, now you're right. I didn't even think of it that way. Nobody tells you have to do it. But
Exactly.
oh, that
Like
makes
there's
me think though.
like there's a like for sale by owners, we come across them all the
Mhm.
time. They're not using a realtor. They also can just, depending on what state you're in, because of course we know real estate is local to your state, your
Uh-huh.
city, your county. Depending on what state you're in, you can maybe just go to a local attorney, a real estate attorney, and have them, like you said earlier, have them sign a contract and put a contract in place to execute the transaction. You don't have to use a realtor. It it benefits you a little bit to, as far as trying to get more knowledge around things that you might not know, because these realtors have been practicing this for years. So at the end of the day, they understand how the transactions works, how due diligence works, how all those different things. But no one's subscribing you to come and hire a realtor.
I will tell you that I've seen plenty of attorneys ruin a transaction because they're like how they interpreted a contract. I had one sitting at the closing table. Everything had been agreed on. All the documentation was there. And the attorney is starting to read the contract and says, I don't like the wording of this. And he
Oh,
points at this thing. And the buyer had refused a property inspection and a wood destroying insect addendum. They actually foregoed that. They didn't want that. And he said, well, I'm not letting this client close on this until that's done.
oh wow.
Dude, you can't, that wasn't up to you. We're at the closing table. We have to meet the terms, And
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't close it. He would not close it. And he's like, look, I'm his attorney for this transaction, and we're not closing this until this is done. So we're running around that day, trying to
Yeah.
get a inspection report done and a termite. So the termite got done instantaneously, the wood
Mm-hmm.
destroying insect, but the inspection was like, we were literally closing that thing at 5:45 at night because of some
Wow.
attorney did some people just feel like they need to feel important. So he was like at the end, he was like, you know, you're in violation, dude. We've already agreed to terms, like
Mm-hmm.
you're in violation. He was like, you're not going to tell me. I'm like, oh, because you have an attorney's license. That's it. Oh, because you passed the bar,
Yeah.
So I
And,
just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for the well wishes for my mom. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
oh, and I was going to say, like, even in regard to that experience you had with that attorney, I had an experience with a buyer client,
Mm.
in which we were going through a transaction, and we ended up finding out that the house had the title wasn't clear on the house, so she didn't know how to go through that transaction. Right? We ended up finding out that the seller actually bought it from a tax auction. The title
Yeah.
wasn't clear. The county didn't actually serve the person properly. When they served the house, they sent the letter over to the house. However, the daughter signed it and the mom didn't sign it. So
Oh
because
no.
executed correctly, it became a whole title issue. So just imagine if you are a new time buyer, or first time buyer, I should say, trying to buy a home, and you come across a title situation like this. It's like, what do I
Navigate.
do? You know?
Yeah, navigating that whole thing. And like imagine it this way too. So imagine you're a first-time home buyer and the sellers are represented by a very seasoned agent, right? And that, like, I'm not saying that real estate agents are snaky, but some of them cannot be, let's just say, kind as others, and then you walk in, you're like, I want to buy the house, and they're like, you do, good thing. And they write this contract that basically only represents the seller. So you're the whole time you're like you're having to pay more fees. You're having to pay, for the inspection, the repairs. You're like, oh, you want an FHA? If you're going to close with an FHA, you're going to have to get these repairs done. The seller's not doing it, and you feel like you have no leg to stand on, and you think you're trapped in a contract because no one's explained it to you because you're not being represented fairly. I mean, it could really turn into a big mess. And that's how it used to be. It was kind of like, you want the house, you're going to buy the house, and buyer beware.
Yeah, that's definitely what could turn into. And I was even saying with this
Mhm.
lawsuit, if just say hypothetically, if it was to
Mhm.
go through and they won, like you said, would that then create additional lawsuits going forward? Because like you, if the seller is representing them in the way the contract is done, they're going to like, well, this contract wasn't executed fairly, like you said, and X, Y, and Z. So does that create additional lawsuits outside of um, this case? So I'm
So
like,
that was a good question that came up, Eddie. If you could put that back up on the screen, I'd love to address that. It says Creative Frugal Fund says she's a broker. What do you think? Who's behind this lawsuit? I've heard several say it's a funding. Big money is funding this. And do you think that the flat fee model will ever take off? The flat fee model's been around forever, though. I'm going to say, like, I mean, honestly, we have it here. Like, oh, you can list your home in the MLS for, 1%, but you'll have no representation on either side. All negotiations is done by the seller. There's just going to be people that I think there's a model for everything. And I think the way that it works out now is, if you want to sell at your house and not have to pay any kind of real estate commission, sell it yourself. You don't have to pay real estate agents. Nobody's telling you have to. Not only that, if you do hire a real estate agent, nothing's in stone that says you have to pay 6%, 7%, 8%. None of those numbers are set in stone. All of them are negotiable. If you don't want to pay, 8% or 7%, you can say, hey, I would like to pay only this amount when I close, or, when the transaction goes through. It's all negotiable. And the flat fee thing is negotiable as well. You don't, no one's making you pay.
exactly. You can put as low as, in the MLS system, you can put as low as $1. Like you can put a percentage amount or a dollar amount. You can I think now you can even put zero. I'm not sure. But I believe I was told you can even put zero now. So you don't have to, you don't have to pay the other side. That's a conversation you have with your listing agent, and I always tell people, you got to understand contracts and you got to understand the whole thing behind real estate. So initially, when you go to sign a contract, you're not signing with the realtor, you're signing with the brokerage. You're agreeing to have your house sold through this brokerage, and this realtor is representing you. However, they are under a brokerage. So
yeah, I've said that before, at the like people that don't understand the commissions, and they're like, oh, my real estate agent just made $20,000 off of my sale. And I'm like, well, no, hold on. Let me see something. Okay. That number is now split that in half.
exactly.
10,000 went to the listing agent. 10,000 went to the buyer's agent. And then off of that, you got to take the commission that went to the broker, because that honestly, it's not made out to Clark the realtor. It's made out to the company you work for. I don't know who you work for. Who do you work for? EXP? Which one?
I'm not at EXP yet, but I work for a Better Home and Gardens Real Estate over here in the Metro Atlanta area.
Right. So you look at the closing documents. That's what it says. That's a brokerage name. It doesn't go to Clark the realtor yet. And then Clark gets his commission, right? Now that $10,000 is now, let's just say, about $7,000. Now Clark has to pay his taxes. He has to pay for all the gas that he just put on his car to drive those people around. He has to pay for all of his advertising. He has to pay for his licensure. He has to pay for his MLS fees. So by the time everything's said and done, it's probably about $2,500 out of that $10,000. It isn't as much as you think.
And we also pay for, because my brokerage is a franchise brokerage, so I pay franchise fees as well. So
and then desk fees and internet fees and right.
Yeah, it gets slimmer. I always tell people the realtor is the last one to see the check. They don't realize that after we leave the closing table with the check, they're like, oh, they're about to, like you said, they're about to go home and spend all this money. It's like, no, I take it with the settlement statement, bring it to my brokerage. They then take the check and it gets whisked away into abyss, and I don't see it until it comes in the mail where everything is gone and reduced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's 100% true. Somebody said, oh, they have a question for you, Clark. They said, how's your day going, Clark?
My day's going well. Thank you, Kelly.
Kelly had a good question. Anybody that has a question in the chat, if you want to talk about real estate commissions or anything for that matter, just make sure you put in the chat. Just write the word question first so the moderator can put it up on the screen. So, the Creative Frugal has another question. It says, yes, flat fee around for a while, but traditional agents are charging more and have a lot have not liked this. Do you think that flat fee may become more prevalent and accepted in the industry? What do you think?
Um, I don't know. Because it's always been negotiable. I don't know if it would become prevalent. And we already have, I guess you can call them brokerages that allow the 1%. Was it like Redfin? I think Redfin and all those type of things. So
Uh-huh.
um, I don't know because we always had it. So I don't know if it would become what would be
What would be the driving force for that?
yeah,
Right, like,
yeah,
what would make people go, "You know what? Forget it. I'm not doing this anymore." I
exactly.
don't know. I'm interested to see if I don't think flat fee will be like the new norm. That's for sure. I don't. But I think people that model works for a lot of people because just like when you buy a car, right? Everybody used to have to go to the dealership and negotiate a deal with somebody, behind a desk, and they walk back and forth with this piece of paper and they're like, what do you think about this number? It was like, it's such malarkey. A good portion of people don't like it, but to this day there's a good portion of people that still do. So there is some people that will go online, say, okay, this is what I'm willing to pay for a car, or you're going to sell it to me for that price, and then sure enough there's a car available, and then they drop it off at your front door. But like, people of my dad's generation are like, oh no, I got to go to the dealership and negotiate with these people. Like I got to sit down and talk to them, and I don't want to go through that. I hate that. I hate it more than anything in the whole entire world. So I just think there's always the way that it's set up now, the way that the model of real estate commissions is set up now. There's something for everybody. There's some way to pay commissions in any way and not pay commissions if you want to. I'm hoping that this doesn't really get any footing. There's a lot more footing too. I don't know if you've seen these other lawsuits that, or not lawsuits, just brokerages that are saying that they're gonna step away from NAR, National
Yeah,
Association of Realtors.
yeah, I saw that. And then also in the lawsuit so far, Remax and Anywhere, they dropped out of it. They dropped out of the lawsuit because the lawsuit was against NAR, Keller Williams, Home Services of America, um, Remax Anywhere, and then the one with Mueller. They also have
Mhm.
Realogy in it. And Remax and Anywhere decided to settle. I believe Remax is settling for 55 million, and Anywhere I think 83.5 million because they don't want to um, be involved. But yeah, they I've heard that where a lot of people they're like, well, it was never mandatory for a brokerage to have their agent even join the National Associations of Realtors.
Oh, but you join your MLS, you have to, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, like, you have no choice. Like if you want to be a real estate agent in an area, the reason why you have to be a realtor is in order to get access to all the homes that are for sale in your area. That's the only way to do it, right? Then this is what gives you the breakdown of the agent notes that are behind a listing, for instance, any kind of important documents that are not typically found on the internet, like your property disclosures, any kind of plat maps, anything like that. Those documents are on the MLS that you're a part of because you're a realtor. So you have no choice. You really don't. When you pay your dues, you have to pay them in order to be a part of the MLS. And so yeah, I can see why some people don't want to be a part of that. And like if anybody I know you as the public, like what's the big deal? Like why do you really like care? Well, they take a good chunk of our money every year. And they say that they do all this great stuff for you. And I don't know, I've been in this business now. This is my 17th year. Yeah, I think 17th year. And I can honestly say that I don't know what it looks like without not being a part of them, but I don't feel like there've been a great representation of my needs as a real estate agent. And I never thought it was really great for them to sell our data to all these big firms. And that's what happened. They sold our listings, our information for our listings for Realtor.com, for Zillow.com, and they just gave it away. They gave it away. We didn't have a choice in that. And if they
And
went ahead and made a national MLS, if we were real estate agents, it had a national MLS so we could access all that information, then yeah, I would be like, yeah, I'll pay my dues without even thinking twice about it. But I don't think it's going to affect these huge brokerages terribly if they just went ahead and dropped out of NAR, National Association of
And
Realtors.
that's what and I know in the Mueller case, when I was reading through the complaint, the documents, that was one thing that the lawyer had stated in regards to saying that there's no need for a buyer's agent nowadays because everything is online, accessible to the general public, where they can go to Zillow, they can go to Realtor.com, and they can click on the house that they want to buy. So the buyer's agent is really not doing, they don't have a job. Like, what's the point of their job? Because you can just go and get a house, and I can just go and see that house. Why do I need a buyer's agent? It's no point. You're not, basically, they feel like we're not doing any work on the buyer side. They're like, okay, the general public can just find it on Zillow nowadays.
Well, that isn't just finding a house. It's that like they're missing the whole chunk of what the job is. Like that's the whole point, is like you can get yourself in such hot water, like serious quicksand, without filling out that form correctly. If you can't fill out a contract correctly, or the other agent is super savvy, they can make that contract look really, really bad for you as a buyer. Really bad. Really bad. Like you're forced to buy it no matter what. And if you have a good buyer's representation, as me as a buyer's agent, I'm looking for all the loopholes in all the ways that you can step out of that contract if you don't want to buy this house in the end. I'm making sure that many days beyond the time that you actually signed the offer, that you could still go, you know what, I don't want this house anymore.
Exactly. I was talking to a actual person that I met online that was in the Maryland area, because I'm in the Georgia area, and she had a realtor. And I always tell people, every realtor is built differently, right? As people, we have good people and bad people.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I was basically telling her, like, she was selling her house, and she had a buyer, but the buyer had a contingency situation going. Like, they needed to be able to sell in order to buy. Sell in order to buy her house. They need to sell their house to buy her house, and then vice versa. So they put that in the contract. However, I told her, I said, well, have you ever heard of a kick-out clause? Because I know she was wondering in regards to, like, she was like, is my house going to sell because we have this deal X, Y, and Z? I said, well, if you put a kick-out clause in place, you could be able to entertain an offer. However, you would have to let that buyer know that they have a certain amount of hours per se, or if they can't take that contingency away, that you would kick them out the deal. So, and she didn't know that. So her realtor didn't explain stuff like that to her. So it's like, it's always great to have a good realtor or real estate agent that can explain those things. So if they take that buyer side away, you're not going to have nobody to explain stuff like that. Nobody's going to tell you different things that can be put in place in the contract and all those things. So
and you get stuck. You get stuck. You get stuck, and you're like, I got stuck buying this house. And then you're going to have a lot of regret. Lawnmower had asked a question earlier. It sat on the screen. I didn't get a chance to answer it, but he asked that real estate agents have to pay desk fees. So a lot of offices, in order to sit down at the office and answer phones or anything like that, you have to pay a desk fee. You also have to pay an administration fee. So when you come in with your file of paperwork that has to be filed at the office, that you have to hand that to somebody. So you have to pay an administration fee, and that's usually like point whatever % of the contract deal. So it's not a flat rate on that either. Everything, by the time, like, I was just so shocked when my first deal went through. I was like, this is so small. I thought, like, I could pay all my bills with this. Like, no wonder why you have to pay, like, at least sell 3 houses a month in order to make it in this world.
Yeah, people.
Go ahead.
No, people don't realize that paying a desk fee, like our desk fee, I'm always transparent with it. I currently pay $100 a month for my desk fee in my office. So whether I help somebody buy or sell something, it's $100 being taken out of my pocket every month. And and people don't realize that the fees continue, and then every year my association out here, they make me pay $500 a year. So whether I'm helping somebody buy or sell, 1 month I could be paying $600 on my pocket.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing too is, like, we used to have to pay a paper fee. So anytime that, like, somebody say, oh, can you print me off that listing? We had to pay 25 cents per piece of paper that was printed on. And if it was a color, like if you do color, like printed in color paper, that was 50 cents. 50
Oh,
cents.
wow.
So, like, sometimes, when you had somebody that was coming in from out of town and you had to put all these packets together or listing packets together, I mean, some of my paper fees, they racked up $300-400 a month because of paper. So stupid. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do this at home. Peter has a question that says, for a year and a half, the Fed has said that they're taking rates higher for longer. The entire time, real estate experts and institutions have said the rates will go down. Future lawsuits? Question mark. Well, we're all doing this, like all these real estate agents that are predicting this. I know for myself that whenever I'm quoting people. I'm not saying for me, I'm not saying real estate prices are going down. If I'll say, according to real estate experts at Redfin, according to the CEO of Zillow, they're saying that, and all you're doing is quoting a source. You're not the source, you're the source of the source. So, I mean, you really can't get sued. And I'm going to tell you, there's a good portion of people that are on YouTube right now that have been saying the housing market is going to crash for the last 3 years, has creamed it in views. Like, people want the housing market to crash so badly, but he doesn't have a license. So he can say whatever the heck he wants. Literally can say whatever he wants. He could say tomorrow, rates are going to be at 10%. Everybody's going in foreclosure and housing prices are going to go down another, 60%. He could say that and never get in any trouble for it. So, yeah, most of the time when real estate agents are saying that interest rates are going to go down by the end of the year, it's because they're quoting somebody. They're not, but we're all doing this. Anybody
Exactly.
can say anything, especially when it comes to the market, whether it's the stock market. Yeah. Ooh, anybody could say anything. And not only that, like, I love each and every one of you, but I would hope to the gods that you would not take everything I say as gospel, that you would take more than one person's mouth saying a bunch of words as the only thing that you listen to when it comes to the real estate market. I strongly advise you to listen to me and then listen to 5 other people and then do your own article research. I like, a lot of people didn't believe me that I'd said that home prices are going to remain flat for a year. And sure enough, they did, but they didn't want to believe me. They're like, it's all going to crash. But just know this, when it comes to housing markets, even when we had the worst housing market in history, it was all reflective of your specific area that you live in. Because even when home prices in some areas were dropping, 10, 15, 20% in the last housing market crash, sure enough, in the area that I live in right now, they never went down. It never went down. It remained flat for a couple of years, but we never saw a 20, 30, percent drop. But if you went over to the Orlando market, some of those houses went down 30, almost 40% in some areas. So just, keep that in mind. National headlines are one thing, but you have to put it in perspective for your specific area.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a tangent. Sorry.
That's what I always tell people: do your own due diligence and and always interview your agent. Like, every agent, you don't have to go with one agent because they say, "Hey, I'm an agent a real estate agent that you need to go with." You interview your agents, interview your loan officers, interview everybody.
Have you heard about this? What's going on with your thoughts with going on with Cesar, Pena, and DJ Envy, Roshan,
Oh, yeah.
up in New Jersey? What's that about?
Yeah, I heard about that. So that is DJ Envy is a radio host.
Oh, I did see this. Go ahead.
And he teamed up with a guy named Cesar Pena in regards to, quote unquote, his Instagram handle was Flippin' NJ, I believe. And it was basically similar. It kind of rolled into a Ponzi scheme where he was taking people's monies and saying that he was investing in properties with their money and then own some of the properties. So now it's taking rolling into a lawsuit, and now they're trying to basically, I guess, try to get the money back and put him back in jail.
Right. So what he was like, they would say, "Oh, here's this house, and your $250,000 is going to be used to flip this house." They take that same exact house send it to another investor and say, we need $250,000 to flip this house. And they're like, okay, that's going to be the house that we sell. Then he'd go take that same house. Like he did it to like 5 people and it was the same exact house. And it still was never fixed up or flipped or anything. So,
And he said supposedly he can give them anybody a 30% return in their investment.
correct.
So I tell people we don't know what we're going to get in return, especially in the real estate field. It's similar to like the stock market per se. That's how I relate to it sometimes. Like you don't know what's going to happen. So to get promised that you're going to get a 30% return, that would have been a red flag to me. I would be like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, but I mean, like you saw, I can see how people got wrapped up in it though. I mean, I don't blame the public in this because if you like what we saw in the last 3 years in the real estate market and you it was like 2021 and you hear this guy saying, oh yeah, you invest this, I can get at least 30%. That almost seems realistic. It's not fake because you're watching all the home prices go up crazy during that time. So I can see why people got wrapped up in it. And then their money just sat there. Because what he was doing was when people were like, hey, where's my return? He's like, oh. So he robbed Peter to pay Paul. And he kept doing that for a while. And now it's all come to a head. And this one guy got caught up in it. That DJ he put him up on his podcast. And more people were like, oh, we trusted you. But if y'all don't notice, I do not advertise brands. I'm going to start this year, but I'm doing like serious full investigations. I will never talk about the imaginary coin or pictures, digital pictures that you could invest in. That didn't even make sense to me. All those NFT boys that were like, oh yeah, and the NFTs, blah blah. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Oh, you just don't understand. You're like, you're not as smart as me because you don't understand. I'm like, okay, all of them are worth nothing. Nothing. All of that was just hogwash. But I would anything I'm gonna ever advertise is either something I legitimately use or I've investigated thoroughly to know that they're a legitimate company that my audience could use their product and it's not hogwash. Because I hate being bamboozled. That's why I do this channel. Nothing makes me angrier than people getting snowballed by crappy practices.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. Rapid home. Oh my gosh, I cannot read. 2 weeks off, I can't read anymore. Home Rapid Repair says if a listing shows 0% for the buyer's agent, will it not get many showings or attention from the local real estate agents? But even then, it's still negotiable. So, like, if it still says buyer's agents will receive no commission, you could technically show the house and you could tell the buyers, like, look, they're not willing to pay me a commission. Are you willing to at least pay X amount of dollars for us to buy this house and get it closed? That's one way as a real estate agent you could do it. That, or you could go in and say to the listing agent, hey, is it possible? I know it says 0%, but these people can't really afford to pay on commissions on top of the sales price. Can we roll that in to the cost of the house? So instead of it being 250,000, can we roll that into 252,500 so that way it will cover the costs of my commissions, and then they'll break it down in the closing documents. There's 1,000 ways you could do it where people could still get paid.
And I'm like, technically, people already do it for sell by owners. Like when if you give them a call, they'll tell you, I'm not giving commission. So.
Eddie says I need to take my glasses off when I talk. Apparently it's the flash is too much. Maybe I should just close out this window. Oh, that might look like I'm in the dark. Is that better, Eddie? No, it's terrible. That's even worse. I can't see. My whole thing is that this year I just heard I have over 50 eyes. And in the past year, I went from, I can barely see, or, I think my eyes are tired at night. Oh, I think I have lotion in my eyes. I can't see when I'm looking at my computer screen, to I'm freaking blind and I need glasses. So I went from like the lowest lowest reader glasses you could get, and now I'm at 1.75. My eyes are deteriorating so bad when it's seen close up.
Oh
You'll
God.
see. Are you over 40 yet?
Oh no, I'm almost there. I'm what 2 years away now from 40. So I got the gray hair already coming in. So
Those are wisdom highlights. Those are wisdom lights. No, yeah, that's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about my glasses. I'll work on them. FB says nope. Kristina, he only listens. They only listen to me. They only listen to me. They're not listening to anybody else.
That's so funny.
What is this? Fungible? What is that? Makes me think of fungi, aka fungi. Fungi? I don't know that. I didn't know what. Maybe there's a conversation going on in the chat that I don't know about. If you guys have a question, just make sure you put the word question first, and then the moderator can put it up on the screen. But V-Man has a question. He says, question, would an agent do more if he is getting a 3%? Then if he was making 2%, they should make it 3% flat. They have the experience worth it to me, making sure that your paperwork is in order. Well, like I will tell you, it's customary. It's not customary. There is no customary price, but I know that like when I lived in Florida, it was 3%, 3%. The 3% one on the listing side and 3% one on the selling side. I moved here to Louisiana and it's typical 5%, 2.5% on the seller side, 2%, 2.5% on the buyer side. I went to some areas around Atlanta. It is 7%. 4% goes to the listing agent, and 3% goes to the buyer's agent. But that's the point. Everything's negotiable. You may have a customary commission in your area, but everything's negotiable. I know that some agents say, well, if you don't offer X amount, no one's going to show your house. And I know in my specific area, that ain't happening. Like people are like, they just want to sell houses. They like volume. So they'll sell it, whether it's a 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, they don't care. They're like, they want the volume of houses. They're not looking at the commission so much. I never even see how much the commission is until probably like 3 days before the closing happens, unless I'm on the listing side, then I know. But on the buyer side, I don't even look at it. And I'm like, oh, wow, I got a 3% this time. I was really excited. Like, because it's so rare. It's so rare,
And like in Atlanta, so I like every morning I wake up and I look at my MLS just to see like what's selling, what's sitting, what's expired, what's whatever withdrawn or those things like that. But I always then go into like the stuff that's sold, and I always just scroll down and see like what was the commission, also what were the terms as far as like conventional FHA, cash or whatever. So, but I've been noticing lately, honestly, that there's more people down here now doing like 2.5. I've seen some 2% in our MLS. I've seen even one that said like 1.9%. That was the first. I never saw somebody put a point. Yeah, it was interesting. So I'm like, I've seen 1%.
They must have been cutting it close, having to pay some fees to. I bet you that was a divorce situation, and they had a certain amount that they had to give to each other.
So that's why I tell people, I'm like, there's no set commission price. Everything's negotiable. So some people just say this is my fee. I tell people it's like comparing to if you see a gas station and a pizza place, right? Mm-hmm. The gas station down the street their gas might be $3.09. Well, down here $3.09, and then down the street you go a little further, it might be $2.99. You can. It's similar to like real estate. Everything, you can go somewhere else or use a different service if you feel like it doesn't meet what you want. If you don't want that agent that's charging 3% on the buyer side or 6% in total when it comes to the whole transaction, then go to another agent that's willing to do 5% or 4% or 3%. Or if you like that agent, just negotiate. Like just say, hey, this is really high for us. We want to take home some more cash, hopefully. And are you willing to go lower? Because we like your services and we like you. We want to work with you. And then at that point, the agent can say yay or nay. It's just, you have a decision. So with them trying to also use in the case like the whole Sherman Act, like Sherman Antitrust Act and all that stuff, saying that it's not that whole fixed pricing and all that stuff. It's like nothing's being fixed. Everyone has a choice. When you sign that contract, you make that choice.
Right. Whenever they say that, like, oh, it's, like real estate agents shouldn't make, 6%. I'm like, who's making, you don't have to pay 6%. Nobody told you have to pay 6%. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I would like, you don't have to pay it. You really don't. There's a million different ways you can sell your house. You can sell it yourself. I've even seen people sell their house on Facebook Marketplace. You go on right now on Facebook Marketplace and sell your house. Like if you're going to do something like that, just make sure you have a good title attorney that's going to close it. And that you understand the whole process of selling your house. Some people are ex-real estate agents though, so they know what they're doing. I notice that a lot, So Candy has a question: is buying land for sale by owner realistic without a realtor for the buyer? I would, if the buyer is going to buy it for sale by owner, I would strongly suggest for them to get out a really good book about buying land, because there's so many things. I will even tell you this: there's a lot of real estate agents. If they know nothing about buying land, go ahead and find yourself another real estate agent. There's so many things that can happen with a piece of dirt that causes more problems. I would rather sell a house than a piece of dirt, because trust me, I know I talk about it all the time, all the pitfalls. There's a book. Hold on. There's a new copy of this book, 10 Things You Didn't Know About the Land by Cheryl Thane. Get this book. And before you ever sign on a contract, if you're going to do it yourself, this is the craziest thing, is that she wrote this book for real estate agents, people that are supposed to know how to sell and buy land. She wrote this for them. And then it ended up being for, a lot of people that were, but does it have sewage? I have a million videos. Honestly, go ahead and take my playlist on buying land. And one of the top 2 are the best videos I have on it, because it pretty much breaks down everything you need to know about buying land very simply. So watch those videos. You're in better shape if you're going to do it for sale by owner. Make sure you have a good title attorney too, and look up the title of those. And the last thing I tell you is, if somebody says to you, don't buy title insurance, is a scam, don't listen to them and get rid of your friend. Title insurance is probably one of the cheapest things you could do in your real estate transaction, and it really save your rear end, especially with land. Want to add anything to that, Clark?
No, it's true. I tell people, because like I said, every state is different in the real estate transactions. Like in the state of Georgia, we close with closing attorneys. So like you said, just know, if you're going to do it yourself, just be very privy to understanding how the real estate works in your state. Of course, your city and your county. So like down here in our county, like we're split into different counties, which most states all have their different counties, but it's always something different in regards to everything. I know recently down here when I was working with a buyer, we went to a place and they said that they were on a public search, and after we had a home inspector come out, they found out that it was on a septic. So yeah, because the piping wasn't going towards the street; it was going towards the backyard. So they're like,
"Oh, there's a leak on this."
They was like, unless they wired it where they took the pipe all the way to the backyard and then like put it around the house and they came back to the street, it doesn't make sense that this is on public storage if it's going towards the backyard.
So. My husband and I bought a property, and they were supposed to be getting public water and public sewage, and then I had an old septic tank that was there, and so they were like, well, you can't close on this unless you get a whole new system. And I'm like, in less than 3 months, I'm going to have to be part of the whole thing from the state. I have to be public water, public sewer. And so we kind of went back and forth. So they kind of like scooted the paperwork back, just we hear no evil, see no evil, just close this house. And I'm like, okay, as long as they didn't turn off the electricity. So like this lady with the seller was so flaky. And we're like running we went ahead and put it in our name before the thing even closed. Because I was so afraid she would not pay the bill, and then they would cut it off. Because if they cut off the bill, then we would have had to put a brand new sewage system in that house that would have been required for us to connect to the state water and sewer. Oh, such a nightmare. Anyway. Yep. Smart Think says, to be honest, as you guys said that they don't need a realtor, I expect to see a decline in realtor dues due to low demand and competition with Zillow, Redfins, which keeps growing. I will say this: during the last crash, which was in 2007, there was a big decline of how many real estate agents renewed their license. I guarantee by the end of this year, you're going to see a big portion of real estate agents that are going to be getting out. But honestly, that's a good thing for the public altogether, because most of those people, we should have never been in the business to begin with. They saw that it was easy money, during that time. All they had to do is pick up their phone and sell a house. They're very inexperienced. A lot of the experienced agents were picking up all the slack while these people were collecting checks. So the fact that they're getting out is actually a good thing for all of you that are thinking about buying a house in the future. Real estate is not easy. It's really not. And I genuinely believe that if they raise the education requirements for people getting their real estate license, we would have better quality people getting their license. It's just too easy. It's actually easier to get your real estate license than it is to cut hair. I'm not joking. I used to cut hair, and I'm like, oh, all I have to do is this course for 6 weeks at night, But when I get a hair license, it took me over a year,
Wow.
It's so simple, and
Yeah.
I think they should require like maybe like a 2-year degree, maybe even,
Mhm.
I'm saying
Yeah.
something.
No, I agree. I come across a lot of realtors that you realize some of them are just in it, like you said, for the money.
Mhm.
Um, and then also doing transactions. I don't think people realize sometimes, because I always get people that come like, every time I call a realtor, they don't pick up the phone. And I'm like, I always tell people like, I'll pick the phone up if you call me, and I'm always helpful and if anybody has any questions. If I know it, I'll let you know. If not, I'll tell you, like, I don't know, but I'll get somebody that does know it. Because I don't know everything. But as I experience different things, I learn different things as well. But I have like my one of my stepdads, he's been a mortgage lender for over 40 some plus years. So I might ask some questions and different things. So but real estate is definitely not as easy as they make it seem on like Selling Sunset and on Instagram, where they take the pictures and they tell you this they sold these $1 million houses. It's not that easy. It's a lot of back stuff that goes on in the background.
And do you think that it's like frustrating as you as a buyer or seller that your real estate agent won't answer the phone? Nothing's more frustrating than when you have the buyer that has a contract that has a time limit on it, that like you're trying to get a hold of this agent, like, we emailed it to you, we've faxed it to you, like, like, we're courier pigeon, can you let us know that you even received the offer in the first place? Like, there's bad in every business. It doesn't matter. Real estate agent, attorneys, doctors, every business has people that suck. They just do. They just
Yeah,
do.
I had a situation when I was working with an agent on the other side, and I had that same experience where we were about to be out of our due diligence, and there were some things that we wanted to be addressed in the property to address concerns, the amendment and addendum. No amendment, sorry. And then I was trying to get a hold of the agent, and so I had to let my buyer know. I was like, "Are you? How do you want to proceed with this? Do you want to terminate before due diligence? Because once we get our due diligence, um, this is a way in which you might not be able to get your earnest money back. We know that if you go further down the line with like the financing and all that stuff, you can possibly get it back. But like in the sense of everything, are you okay? And they were like, yeah, we're okay. But the agent just never got back to me in regards to the concerns that we had. So you get some agents that will literally, and I don't know if that's a strategy too, because it might be a strategy, but I
Well, they
don't.
try to wait you out. They're really like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll talk to my seller, because you have like a 10-day inspection period. Like, let's just say you have a 10-day inspection period. And so you ask them a list of questions in an email, right? And they're like, oh, they'll email you back, oh, let me talk to the seller and let me know, I'll let you know. And then they wait you out after those 10 days, and then you're stuck with the contract. But you have to put it in an addendum, like, these are the questions we need addressed.
Mhm.
You have X amount of time before you answer this. If you don't answer this, then we get our full deposit back. These are all the sneaky things that seasoned agents know what to do in order to keep the buyer in the contract, But if it's a good representation of a buyer's agent, they know the other way to counteract those sneaky tactics. So that's why it's so important. Make it full circle with our conversation there. Creative Fugal says, I heard a scenario, the NAR suit, similar to hiring a landscaper to do the work. They charge a fee. Homeowner doesn't get to dictate how the money is spent on labor to get the job done. Same with the commissions, like the BAC. No, I get it. I do. I understand that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I don't understand why they would do this kind of thing. As far as the lawsuit is concerned, I agree with that one commenter that said I don't think it's going to go anywhere because people have a choice. It's not like you're forced to do it. All right, Pooh. This is an interesting screen name. Pooh's Blustery Day. I'm assuming that's the dog because that's the screen. Do you see the screen?
The dog.
I love little Mickey Mouse ears. I love a dog. So a question: what would happen if you created a competitor to the MLS? Do you know what the competitor of the MLS is? Zillow.
I was Zillow.
Zillow is a competitor of the MLS. I think that if NAR created a national MLS for real estate agents, it'd feel worth it. Because what they are doing is like, this is going to, I want you as a public to hear this and feel like if you were a real estate agent, if you feel like your fees were being used with good money. They bought a bus, right? They bought a bus to travel across the United States to advertise and let the public know for educational purposes what the meaning of the word realtor was. They did a bus tour, a completely wrapped bus to educate the public on the meaning of the word realtor, because there's a difference between a realtor and a real estate agent. I know as a public, it's super important to you, right? I mean, doesn't that seem like so much? I nearly dropped my jaw when, like, another thing they spent really good money on, and it caused a huge uproar, is they redesigned the realtor logo. The logo itself was redesigned. They spent millions of dollars on this redesign. And it was like, what? That's what our dues are paying for? This redesign? Our dues are being paid for a party bus to go across the United States to teach people about the word realtor? Like, that to me is so infuriating when there's so many other things that we need as real estate agents to help the public. We need help with helping people buy their first home and understanding that process. We need help with all sorts of educational tools for the public, but you want to spend millions of dollars on a logo and a party bus. So annoying. It's just very frustrating. And then some of they're like, we're lobbying for this to make sure this doesn't happen. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You're lobbying that isn't in the public's best interest. It might be the best interest for the real estate agents, but is it really the best interest for the public? And aren't we here for the public?
Exactly.
I don't know, but we have a choice. You have to pay the dues. It's like you have to be a part of the club that you don't want to be a part of, but you have to be a part of that club in order to be able to sell houses.
Exactly.
We're forced to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, V-Man says, would a agent do more if he gets a 3%? We already did that question, Eddie. Eddie, where are you? Eddie must be answering some text messages. There might be some messages that came through. Again, broker here, now offering TC services outside of Utah, quickly learning how different contracts are. Steep learning curve, afraid of those going alone with no experience. So yeah, this is true. So even in my own state, they change the purchase agreement contract all the time. Every year they add or take away some verbiage. It used to be when I first started with in real estate, it was front and back. It was literally a front and back piece of paper. Oh. And every county in the state, which is also a parish, I know it's a parish, but for everybody else that doesn't know that, it's a county, right? Everybody had their own contract, which was crazy. So then they came up with a state contract. It was only a front and back piece of paper. They changed it. Then it was 2 pages. Then it was 4 pages. Now it's like 9 pages. 9 pages. And it's all a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo stuff. A lot of it about electronic signatures, all the way that things change now. But it'll be interesting to see though if AI, right? So if AI, this would be a really interesting thing to do, as the public should do maybe, is copy and paste that purchase agreement contract into something like Chat GPT, and then say, fill out this form for the best representation on the buyer side for this purchase offer, and see what the AI comes up with. Because it can read all the legalese, what those words mean. Like, we have to go to a class and say, because it says nor instead of or. That means, yeah. So they'll tell us that. So you're like, oh, thank God I knew that. But if you put it in AI would be able to interpret that really like this.
That would be interesting.
A little Chat GPT there. I love Chat GPT. Hotel California says, Kristina, can you talk about the future of manufactured homes as rental investments in 2023 and beyond? So it will depend on your area when it comes to manufactured homes. I always believe that investing in manufactured homes that are attached to land is always a good idea, because first of all, they're very inexpensive to repair. Do you have any of these in your area, Clark? Manufactured homes, mobile homes?
We do, but not in like the Metro Atlanta area. Not really.
Oh no, I know. But outside there, right?
Yeah, outside.
Yeah, I know. Not in the city are they going to have a manufactured home. I think they're great. And I also think that if you are a big enough investor, small investor, that you're willing to take on a big manufactured home park, that could be a really good business for you as a person. Not only that, you're going to take it away from the corporate investors that jack up the rents extremely high, because you have a spread that you want to make, but they are trying to squeeze every penny that they can out of somebody that's living in those parks. So you could really kind of help a group of people that couldn't buy the park on their own. I still think that they're a great investment. We rent them out all the time. I actually just told somebody, I'm like, oh, you could get $1,200 rent on a manufactured home here. She said, oh, no, you can't. I said, yes, you can. Speaking of Facebook Marketplace, I screenshot it to her and said, look, this one is for rent for $1,200 a month. She was like, no way. I'm like, I'm telling you. It's like, that's what rent is. But, the purchase price of that manufactured home, I looked it up, the original purchase price on a piece of land. Now, this was, they bought it back in 2017, was $68,000. $68,000. Now, that piece of property, of course, it's a lot more than that now, but they're still getting $1,200 on that manufactured home. That's good. That's good money.
Good. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure that manufactured home is paid off already. So.
Oh yeah, and then that's mailbox money. That's your retirement fund right there. V-Man has a question. As agents, the homes that you're selling, is there a primary home or is there an extra home they had as a rental, so they're cashing out while the market is great to sell and maybe reinvest later? As agents, the homes you are selling, as agents, the homes you're selling, is there a primary home and are there an extra home there? Most people that are investors, they have their primary house and then they have their investment properties. One guy I was an investor with never owned any of his houses. All of them were in his company's name. All of them. He would live in each one of them for like 3 months.
I heard somebody do that before, where they would just jump from house to house to house, and they were just living, or they would sell in a certain amount of years to go to another property. So
yep. Yeah. So I think it just depends on the investor. Some of them are, you don't want to hold on to that money too much, because then you have to capital gains and all that other stuff. So you don't want to hold on to that money for too long.
I've been seeing more people. I've had a lady that came to me recently. She has her actual property, her home occupied property, but also she has an investment property. And she actually came to me in regards of the taxes. she's like, I want to sell both of them to put into to buy a new house, but how do I avoid the taxes, you know? And so I'm like, well, there's no way really around taxes,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Hey, no matter what, you're going to pay in one way or shape
Exactly.
or form. You're not getting around that. Not getting around it. Yeah, but I mean, there's certain ways to handle capital gains tax, and it depends on the investor and what you're investing in, and you just got to work with your real estate agent who understands that and understands it correctly in order to get that done.
Yeah,
But
we were
yeah,
talking about like 1031 exchange, but it has to be a similar type of property exchange. But and then I also just connected her to a tax CPA. You know, I was like, I'm out. My jurisdiction is not taxes and all that stuff. I can give you an overview of what I know, but I can connect you to someone who does. They do taxes for a living. They're a tax CPA. So or a local attorney that can guide you in that way. So, just give them what you know, but also I always tell people this is not my forte. So I'm going to tell you this information, but I really want you to do your due diligence and go talk to these people because this is what they do for a living, you know?
well, that's why I always tell people whenever they ask lending questions, I'm like, oh, let me get a lender. I can tell you everything about the house, transaction of the house, but when it comes to money, that ain't my thing. When it comes to lending, no.
Exactly.
Bizman Space Life 18 says, how will digital money affect the real estate as a whole if CBDC takes into effect, turning into a cashless era? Well, currently, I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, I bet you there's less than 0.00001% of homes that are sold using Bitcoin and that kind of thing, right? But if you really think about it, all transactions when it comes to real estate have always been some kind of cashless deal. Nobody walks in with a suitcase of cash. It goes from one piece of paper to another piece of paper, or it goes from one wiring service to another wiring service. It's been like that since I've been in real estate. We've always wired money for the closing. Nobody touches a dollar. You don't walk into a closing with a suitcase of money. You can't do that.
Exactly.
So it'd be interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because I don't know that many deals. I haven't come across a deal yet where someone came to me with cryptocurrency. So I don't know how many people are buying with that. But I know that we did have a young man up here. I think he ended up getting taken by the feds. I believe like Athens, Georgia. I know this is like, but I was just related.
Shocking.
Exactly. I related to the cryptocurrency. He actually was. He reached out to them because someone stole some Bitcoin or something from his house. It was in Athens, Georgia. They stole Bitcoin from his house, and he reached out to them.
They stole his wallet. Then they stole his Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah, his wallet. Exactly. And he was like, it was like $400,000 in the wallet. And so when they started doing an investigation, they were like, well, how does this man have so much money? X, Y, and Z. So it kind of it ended up getting
himself.
Yeah. He told him himself. He got arrested.
Criminals are something else, man. They're like, we stole all this fake money, but I want my wallet of my fake money that was stolen from me. But then he tells on himself. I love a smart criminal. AF Virginia says, can you revisit your modular home price comparison with stick built? Just worked with a modular home builder and came out 15% more than stick built home for the same design and size. Wow. That's going to depend on your specific area. I'm going to be honest with you. Some modular home companies are going to fall exactly in line with the traditional stick built houses. I've seen it also where it was a little bit more, but it was because the modular home was built to better standards. It had better quality products that were going into that specific plan. So it's always just good to price them out. Years and years ago, it used to be a little less than a traditional built home because all the pieces were built in the factory and they could put it together and it didn't cost as much in labor. Now that labor and material costs have gone up so incredibly high, those numbers match pretty much are in line matching traditional home building. The only reason you would want to do it, like honestly, is that modular homes are a much better product, in my opinion. They're better, tight, sealed house. They're like those houses aren't going anywhere. and this is just my opinion. Don't get me sued. This is my opinion. Not only that is if once you've designed your house and you've put down your pad and everything's prepared for it, the day that your house starts being put together, it's put together in just a few days. Like, you have your whole house done in like a month instead of waiting, 6 to 8 months for your house to be completed, because all the little rooms start coming together and they put them together, and then you're just waiting for occupancy certificate. I swear I could talk. I haven't been drinking. Peter says, your thoughts on mortgage interest rates being over 8%? Well, that sucks. It's terrible. And the rule of thought, right? So Peter, you would think the rule of thought, 8%, that means home prices should be tanking, right? Wouldn't you have thought that, Clark?
Yeah,
like
I would have thought
every
that.
time they've ever said, if interest rates go up, that means home prices come down. Whenever home, like it always flip flops. Whenever interest rates go down, home prices go up. That's what it should be doing, right? Technically.
Yeah.
The biggest problem we have, what is it?
The low inventory. I keep telling people that all the time, especially down in the Metro Atlanta area. Everything is just going up. And you might see a little price cuts here and there, but of course we're going to see it around this season too. This is the slowest season. So if people are trying to sell and they need to get out, they're going to cut just to try to make their bottom line. But because of that low inventory right now, and the builders, they're not building but so much now, and yeah, unfortunately, it sucks. The interest rates are going up, but the prices aren't going down right now, and they're continuing to climb down here in Atlanta. And I'm just baffled, because I'm like, how is the average person from Atlanta, Georgia, going to be able to afford a house with like an 8% interest rate, and the purchase price of over like $500,000? Like, that mortgage is crazy. So I don't know.
Well, if it continues to go up, we'll have another stagnant market, because there isn't enough supply of houses. Because no way a builder is going to take on that expense with sitting in with inventory. They're not going to go, oh, you know what? I think I'll go ahead and build right now. They're not going to do that. If the interest rates continue to go up, builders are going to build less. That's going to still cause a tightening of supply. Sellers aren't going to sell because they already have a really low interest rate. The people that are going to sell are the ones that have to sell because they're moving somewhere. And the people that are going to buy are the ones that have to buy. So, I mean, if it continues like this, we'll have another stagnant market, not huge. The only ones that are going to see the biggest declines in price are the ones that have lots of new construction in their area.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't make the rules.
Exactly. I'm like, all I can do is just tell you what's happening in the market. I can't tell you what they're going to do. I just tell people I can show you different things, what's happening, give you information, but you have to, either see or figure what's.
I maintain this, and I will continue to say this over and over again. The Fed only has so many levers they can pull in order to get inflation and spending under control. Bank of America came out with a statement saying that 43% of people can't even pay their bills. 43% of people have maxed out, and now they're living on total credit, and it's freaking them out. They're not really happy about this whole thing. If the job market is true and doing what it's supposed to be doing, then the problem lies in a lot of these companies are not paying people enough to stay with the cost of living. There's people that are already working 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet. So the only lever that the Fed has left is trying to destroy the housing market, destroy the jobs market. If jobs start tanking, if jobs start disappearing overnight, people start getting laid off, then we'll have more people that can't pay their mortgage. More people that can't pay their mortgage, they end up online. They'll end up selling. So that would be the time that you would see home prices start to sink, because there isn't going to be a supply of houses if interest rates continue to go up. Builders aren't going to build. Their confidence level is going to be, again, whenever their confidence feels icky, they're not building, Yeah. And so the only lever we have left to relieve housing prices is people to lose their jobs, which nobody really wants to happen in order for it to get more affordable homes. There, I mean, I have tons of suggestions. Just watch a million of my videos, but nobody listens to me. So
And just like they're doing, like coming to, particularly like Georgia right now is like a hub. I think we were named like number one, I think, as far as where people are coming to right now, whether because Florida has insurance prices and all that stuff, and California and New York and all those places, the northern places are high. So they're all flocking to Georgia, and we're having we have like Google here, Amazon here. We getting like, this is becoming, I guess, the quote unquote Hollywood of the South. So we're getting studios here. So what it's doing though is it's pushing up the home prices because it's so much migration coming to Georgia that is literally pushing everything up. I even tell some of the people up north, they'll come down here, they're like, I'm going to buy a house, and then they're surprised at like the cost. And I'm like, well, the only difference right now is just the square footage. I'm like, you're literally just paying for the square footage right now because the cost is just getting crazy.
yeah, well, the house my parents bought in the late 80s in Atlanta is now worth $857,000. My dad's like, that was not worth $857,000. It's so crazy. Yeah. So AF Virginia says stick home builders are charging close to double for the same price home compared to a home in 2017. We built our 3,600 square foot home for $330,000 in 2017. The exact model cost $530,000 in 2023. Well, yeah. Well, like that's happened here too. So the market dictates how much something increases. And we've had explosive growth in home prices over the last 2 years. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised it's not 630,000. You know, if I'm going to be honest with you, because 2017 to now, I mean, if I bought this house in 2017, which I think we did, I mean, we earned in my little Hoboken town. If I was to sell it, I would be selling it for $110,000 more than I bought it for, which is stupid. Which is stupid. I come out of this neighborhood, I see cows and goats. You know, like I don't think I love my house. Don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing, but I don't think it's $110,000 worth more than it was in 2017. That's for darn sure. That is for darn sure. So, Clark, if people were to get a hold of you, I know you've given us some wealth of information. You've been a fantastic guest. I appreciate you. How can people get a hold of you?
So if you want to go to my YouTube, it is Clark the Realtor. My real name is Devon Clark. However, when I went to try to put my name in YouTube as Devon Clark, I couldn't get it. Somebody else had it already. So it's Clark the Realtor on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's DevonClark.realtor. Currently on my channel, I'm just doing home tours. I started kind of sprinkling some videos of me talking in there as well, but people love to look at homes down here in Georgia, so so I
Yeah, of
just been.
course they do. Of course they do.
But yeah,
No,
you reach me that way, and then my emails are on all those platforms. So if you just want to reach out and ask a question, you can just go to those platforms, and my email is just below in that about section. So
you're amazing. I appreciate you. If you want to get a hold of me or are looking for a real estate agent in your area, I'm actually connected with thousands across the country. You can just go to my website called KristinaSmallhorn.com. That's Kristina with a K. Kristina with a K. There I am. You just go ahead and click on any of those pink buttons, fill out the form. Please make sure you put your phone number in there, and I will give you a phone call. I'll give you a little ringy dinky and talk to you about your real estate needs and connect you with one of my real estate friends. If I don't have a real estate agent for you, I will let you know. And I happened to have a phone call this week. The lady was asking for a real estate agent in a remote area of Alaska. I did not have anybody for her. I mean, I've real estate agents all over except for this remote area of Alaska. I've had some in like some remote areas of Texas too. If I can't find you one, I'll let you know, but I'll still give you a call. Still talk to you about it. If you want to listen to this as a podcast, you can always go to anywhere you find podcasts. Just look for Kristina Smallhorn, or just type in real estate for everyone with Kristina Smallhorn. And there I am. Look at me looking so cute, my little overalls. So, Clark, again, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. If there's something specific you would like to talk about in the real estate market, make sure you put it in the comment section below after this video is published, and maybe we'll even bring you up on the screen. So thank you, Clark. I appreciate you. Can you hear me? Clark, can you hear me? Oh, he can't hear me. Sometimes he can't hear me. Clark can't hear me and we can't hear him. Oh no, your audio went out. I'm sure Clark wants to let everybody know that he had a really good time today. And I'm sure Clark is really excited that he was a part of this, even though for some reason he can't hear us or he can't hear us. But we love you, everybody. Thank you, Clark. Ah!
No, we did.